Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Trigger Kiss. Still pursuing Yamato, although we've been waylaid for quite a while trying to recruit Mikado to the team. And we still got a little ways to go along that path. So let us continue on our journey to get Mikado on the team. You can just sit back, relax, and let me read you a story. What?
Good evening. Well, I see you're staying at the same dorm as him.
You're... Sendo, could you enlighten me as to who he is? He's Katsuragi Soya from Hakuroin. His school was last year's champions at nationals. Champions at nationals? Tea. I should be pouring some tea. Or do I go with coffee? No, I think a fancier tea would suit him better. You're absolutely right. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
There is no need. Rather, why don't you take a seat?
Yes, sir. Excuse me. A little too eager to cater to the enemy there, Bonri. Afterwards, Bonri's and my own teeth are nearly chattering with tension, while Soya remains regal and relaxed. What, so we're just sitting quietly here together? Awkwardly? These are our dorms, but... So, Katsuragi, well, what brought you to these dorms?
Oh, I came to see a friend of mine.
Friend? This is dorm staff.
I apologize for the wait.
It's then that, just at the right time, one of the dormitory staff shows up.
I apologize for making you go through the trouble. And so, how did it go? I'm sorry, but it turns out that Mikado still hasn't come back to the dorms. Is that so? Thank you for taking the time. Then, I'll take my leave.
Excuse me. Are you a friend of Mikado, Soya?
Yes, you could say that. We were teammates for a short time in middle school, but after a certain incident, I haven't been able to contact him. I've been searching for him quite a long time.
An incident? If it's alright, would you please tell me more about that?
For what reason?
Yeah, it's being kinda nosy. We happen to be trying to recruit him at present. That's why we'd appreciate even the smallest tidbit of information about him.
So I see. I'd heard that he wasn't part of the Superpower Club, but now I know it was the truth. Huh, that's well enough. If that's the case, I don't see any harm in telling you.
You will?
Well, I'm not entirely sure if this is something to speak of without his knowledge, but I haven't been told not to either.
Soya says that and begins his story. The story of 2 years ago, when Mikado fell to unfortunate circumstances. We get a sad story. Chapter 13, Incomplete Genius.
Before I speak of the incident, I'll tell you about how Mikado and I came to know each other. It'll make things easier to understand.
It was 5 years ago, when Soya was a second year in middle school apparently. When Mikado joined the same Hakuroin-affiliated school that Soya had been enrolled in. Mikado, with no family to speak of, was picked out of the masses for his powers, and was accepted to the school on a scholarship. He demonstrated great enough powers and battle instinct to be called a natural. Apparently, it had been enough to immediately receive the institution's appraisal. It was later that Mikado became a first-string player of the school's superpower club beside Soya. Mikado may have been without family, but contrary to the unfortunate circumstances of birth some may imagine, apparently, for as long as he could remember, he'd been housed in a facility and, despite the lack of funds, managed a stable and fulfilling lifestyle. Mikado seemed to march to the beat of his own drum and tended to get too familiar, but same as he is now. He was quite worldly and wise, and got along with others in his institution. Soya simply thought Mikado to be a quirky junior player, but he was truly skilled, so they ended up becoming friends, Soya says. However, they stopped talking when Soya left to study abroad before he became a third year. It's from there that the story really starts. After Soya was called back into Japan to strengthen Hakuroin's superpower club, he was surprised to learn that Mikado was no longer there. After all, with Mikado's ability, he would work as the main fighting force in the club, even as a high schooler. And so, Soya went on to ask about the situation from someone he knew from middle school, and was told of the misfortune that had befallen Mikado. Apparently, Mikado had made it to the finals at his last time at nationals as a third year at middle school when He'd been dragged into an incident the day of the match. The day of the incident, Mikado was late and had to leave the hotel and head for the tournament grounds alone, and it was during that he fell witness to a scene in which the police and a superhuman were engaged in a fight. And apparently, the superhuman possessed a great amount of power. Bound in flames, the criminal mowed down police officer after police officer. Nobody could stop their rampage. It looked as if the police's anti-superhuman force was late, and the average Joe cops had no choice but to step in. At first, Mikado had only looked on in curiosity, but he couldn't just stand and watch when the superhuman had seized one of the officers by the neck. "He'll be burnt to death at this rate. I have to save him," he said. It was then that Mikado jumped into the midst and was able to save the officer by a hair's breadth, but immediately after, the criminal noticed the advance of the anti-human's police squad and blasted a nearby parked car with fire before escaping. Mikado tried to run immediately as well, but apparently he couldn't, shouldering that injured officer. And he was caught in the explosion. He was injured severely. Oh. I wonder how that officer was, because he would have been caught in it too. A little later, Mikado fell unconscious in critical condition and was at risk of brain death for a while, but a miracle happened and he survived. But his powers had severely diminished in the aftermath. Mikado desperately sought rehabilitation, but in the end, he was only able to recover about half of the ability he had before the incident. And thus, a powerless Mikado lost his place in Hakuroan University High School. Mikado half left, half was run out of middle school, and that's messed up! Later, thanks to a connection, he was able to enroll in Akizuki High on a scholarship.
If I can't play at my best, there's no point in trying. I heard that was what Mikado said as he left Hakuroan.
Who'd have thought that Mikado had such a tragic past? Of course he wouldn't want to join a superpower club after what he went through. We were trying to recruit him in the midst of all that trauma.
Anyways, I'm certain you both have reasons of your own, but there's one thing that's undeniable. With skill like Mikado's, even half of his past ability should still be a respectable force in matches.
I would imagine, especially with his intelligence.
After all, Mikado was truly a genius. If it were possible, I would like to compete with him head-on as well. That's why I'll leave recruiting him in your hands.
Oh. So I guess he'd rather not recruit him for his team because he'd rather fight him and take on the challenge. Soya says that and leaves. Left behind, an unbreakable silence blankets me and Banri. Episode 14, Yamada Banri. I feel like him getting his power should have been his chapter.
And that's why I'll leave recruiting him in your hands.
He told us that, but the very next day, Banri and I are back at Mikado's part-time job for recon. I'm not sure whether he realizes we're here or not. Mikado is continuing work as usual. Sendo, just what should we do? If I can't play at my best, there's no point in trying. It'd be cruel to force someone who said that into our club. It's true that most would think that someone who once shown enough in the sport to be called a genius, being stuck with below-average abilities, wouldn't have much fun participating anymore. Well, I would still think that, if he was that good before, then even at half power he should still be above average, not below average. And he's already shown that he has all kinds of different, intricate ways of using his powers. But no matter how you slice it, we need Mikado.
Excuse me?
Since when did she show up? The next thing we know, the flower shop's manager is standing in front of us. We're not suspicious persons. We're,
You're friends of Mikado's, aren't you? You came to see him plenty of times before, too. She already knew. I'm on break now. If it's alright with you two, why don't we talk for a bit?
What? But... I exchanged looks with Banri. There's no way to know what the manager's thinking. But it's better than standing here and trying to think of something. We end up following the manager to the bench she points out. Thought she was going to tell us to quit hanging out in front of the shop.
I see. So you want to recruit Mikado to your superpower club?
Yes, exactly. Next thing we know, we've summarized our situation to the manager.
Has Mikado lost all interest in superpower clubs?
I wouldn't say that. You see, Mikado often comes to this park after work to practice using his powers.
What, he does?
Yes, I wouldn't think that someone completely uninterested in a superpower club would do such a thing.
You think so too?
Bonri?
Pardon. The truth is, I thought the same thing. Yesterday, when Mikado showed me how to use my powers, it looked like he was having the time of his life. I used to be in a sports club before, so I sort of picked up on it. There's no way someone who could coach so well would hate superpowers.
You're right. It's thanks to his coaching that you were able to use your superpowers too. He got us so far in just a single day. There was something off with Mikado yesterday. What he said and what he did were clearly contradicting. Plus, if you got stronger, it's possible he could lose. Why is he trying to put himself at a disadvantage? Because he wants to compete.
Oh.
And we'll just have to find out what Bonri was thinking in the next episode, because that's it for this translation. But now we're getting somewhere learning about Mikado, which is more than we learned about Azuma and Yamato. We still don't really know that much about those two, about their past or anything like that. We know more about Bonri and Mikado. And also, I wish Mikado was taller, because in the group picture they show, it seems like Azuma's the tallest, and then Yamato is the second tallest, and then Mikado is third, and then Bonri's the shortest. I like my boys tall. Mikado looks like he should be tall. Alright, well anyway, I hope to see you in my next video or some of my other ones. And I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye bye everybody.